And recording on. All right, so I'll go ahead and share my screen. Eventually, here we are. All right, so hopefully you can see my desktop here. Yeah, that works. So I have Canvas up right now, and so let's just talk about the calendar and what today's agenda is. So today, lattice generation in class work, right? I'm gonna open up the Illustrator template, and you guys can see that it's provided here in the link for today. Your reminder then, the next time we meet on Wednesday, 23rd, you'll probably just come with specific questions if you want anything answered. It'll just be a work session. I'm here to sort of work out any bugs or anything, any problems, issues you might be having. And then project one is due a week from today on 28th, right? So yay, I'll probably post that link towards the end of class on Wednesday. Get that assignment made and make sure the rubric's set correctly. And so then that link will go live, then. All right. So today we're going to talk about this template and what's required for project one specifically based off of this template. And then we'll talk, I'll show you a couple of ways you guys can begin to generate some diagrams of your scheme, because I think once you look at the template and you look at what you have, you're going to realize that you need more content than just a few perspectives and a couple of drawings. And so, maybe it's explanatory set of diagrams that either talk about your recipe, your algorithm, right? Or talk about the sort of part to whole relationships between the sort of module to truss to sort of space frame or lattice system. Those sorts of diagrams can be really helpful in sort of explaining your intent and your process. So that's the name of the game today. So if you click on this, it should bring you, I think, to Google Drive. And, I have actually the PDF of an example where I plug stuff in versus the AI, the Illustrator file, and an EPS in case you have an older version of Illustrator than I do. EPS you can open up in Illustrator as well, but it doesn't matter sort of which version of Illustrator you have. So this is a big zip folder that you can download. Once you download it, probably look like a zip file like this. On the Mac, I can just sort of double click it and it sort of unarchives it, unzips it. In Windows, you might have to right click and say like unarchive or unzip. Okay. But then it should give you a folder, right? With this is the easiest way to share a folder with a bunch of files in it, just to zip it for you. So it's just one download. Let's take a look. So here's the example, right? So I believe this is like 12 by 36 inches. I'm not making you guys plot it and mount it or anything because we're all virtual and remote. So there's that at least. But we have basically in 1/3 of the poster, right? The shot, the perspective that sort of shows you, okay, I'm looking at like a bunch of truss-like straight, struts and nodes and things like that, right? The money shot. Here's what I'm looking at. Then you can sort of get an overall sense of the system with some drawings, let's say a top and a front view in this case, right? A few more perspectives. A couple of places where I've pulled it apart and exploded it. Even an axon where I actually changed the density. So this might be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 by 6. This might be 8 by 8. This might be 10 by 10. This one might be 10 by 15 or something like that, right? As far as the amount of curves I used and how many times I divided them or something like that, right? So remember, you can always adjust those sliders and bake out multiple instances to sort of show the parametric variability that your system can actually create, right? Your system can, with relative ease, generate all kinds of solutions based off of the circumstances that you find yourself in design-wise and engineering-wise. So you can always show and sort of capture, right? You've designed a sort of genotype, right? The genes, but it can produce a number of different phenotypes here, right? That you can bake out and then place together to sort of show, let's say varying density or depth or whatever. Okay. So when you open up this Illustrator file, I'll just open it up. I really honestly believe it's just a 12 by 36 inch rectangle with a black background, like a black shape, black square, or rectangle, sorry, and a layer that's locked. And probably some guides sort of arrayed within a grid across it. So I'm just waiting on Illustrator to open up, which for some reason is taking longer than I would have anticipated. Yeah, just what it is. Yeah, not a huge surprise here. All right. You guys have used Illustrator before, I hope. You guys should be old hands at Illustrator given 282 and 267, hopefully, especially. Right, so this is 12 by 36. There is a black background. What I've done is I put that on a layer and locked it for you. I put the guides on their own layer that I've locked so you can't accidentally drag them. But these are in, looks like 1.5 increments. So 1.5 modules of 3, then 3 inch, 3 inch, and then a module of 6. Right, you can always fill in more if you'd like by clicking and dragging from the ruler over onto the dartboard, right? So for instance, I'll unlock that layer and put another one over here. And of course, you use that ruler to really understand where that layer is, or where that guide is that you drug. I'll lock that up now. Okay, and so it has a couple layers here for ortho drawings, large perspective, other smaller perspectives. You can, reorder or add or slash burn layers as you like. One thing I will mention though, right? If you're doing a make 2D and you have, like, let's say the silhouette, the scene silhouette, and hidden lines and visible curves and things like that, and they're all separated on different layers. When you export that to Illustrator, right, you open up that Illustrator file, all of those layers are preserved, right? You have all those layers. And then you copy and paste from that old Illustrator file into this template, and suddenly everything's on its own layer, like on a single layer. And so you've lost that information of having, let's say, the scene silhouette information on a certain layer, right? Like, so when you copy and paste, I'm just going to bring this up, and then I'll show you guys when we generate some diagrams, and I bring some of these into the template as a demonstration today. But if you go to the layers box and you go to the settings over here, to see the 3 dashed lines, and you go to, in this menu, you go down towards the bottom, it says paste remembers layers. Okay. What happens is then if you use copy and paste in Illustrator, right, it'll preserve the layers that each object that's copied and then pasted into another document was on. Okay. And so it won't sort of flatten the image, so to say, onto just one big layer. But it'll actually preserve like, the sort of individual layers that you had so meticulously set up in order to, adjust, let's say, the scene silhouette as a different line weight than the visible curves, which would be a different line weight and line type and line color than the hidden lines or whatever it is, right? So I think that'll be, hopefully that isn't confusing, but I think you'll see what I mean here in a minute. Because I'm going to go ahead and open up Rhino. And let that open real quick. Now that Windows is open. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my grasshopper definition. I'm actually going to bake out different portions of my space frame lattice so that, I can basically, in Rhino, sort of pull them away to make an exploded diagram, let's say, like an exploded axon or something. Sometime today, here we are. All right, so just type in grasshopper. Yeah, wait for that to pop up. In the meantime, I guess I need some curves. Did I do a demonstration the other day? Hopefully I saved that. We'll see. Knowing my luck, probably not. Space frame truss. That sounds important. Let's try that. All right. Now what it needs is a set of curves. My guess is there isn't a space frame truss file already set up. Let's see. Bear with me for just a moment. Truss test 361. Yeah, maybe that's it. No, that is not even close. What in the world is that? Why did I save that? Yeah, anyway, whatever. Sorry. Whew. Let's see. Surface size. No, sorry. Let's look to the recents here. I could have sworn we did something useful here, but I guess not. All right, suffice to say, I'm just going to go ahead and draw some curves. I'll just take care of this really quickly. Plug in my mouse. Okay, so a little bit of review. And by the way, while this is happening, how did your weekend go? I mean, hopefully, I'm seeing people submitting their stuff. What kind of problems did you guys have with either the rendering or the getting the Make 2D to work? Anybody run into any difficulties along the way?
The Make 2Ds just took forever to do.
They will. The more pieces you have, the more stuff to draw. Yeah, how long are you taking on average? Are we talking like in the 20-minute range? Or are we talking like in the, because that's a long time. On the other hand, it beats the hell out of like spending 2 days trying to draw it by hand, right? But I'm just sort of curious, anybody else run into that problem? I'm guessing you did.
My Make 2Ds didn't take too long, but my renders took about like an hour each. But I put it to final quality at 300 DPI.
That's why.
I did the first time. It still came out a little blurry, so I tried upping it, and then it took even longer. So.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to loft something up here. Why not? Great. Did anybody have like tremendous difficulties getting the rendering to look okay? Right? Because I mean, that's the key thing, is to maybe just go with the default plaster shader, right? The sort of white clay model. I found to be the sort of most effective way. But you got to make sure the direct sun isn't turned on, and make sure that the skylight, the sky vault is turned on, right? So you get the diffuse light without all the direct cast rays. That usually does a pretty decent job as far as giving you a soft shadow render. Let's see. I'm going to say contour. And let's draw a vertical line. That would help. There's my axis. All right. Distance between contours. Oh, here's the real trick. You know what? Actually, instead of doing contour, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the isoparms, right? I showed you guys this way, right? We just increase the density of them. Then we can extract the wireframe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's good enough for me. I don't want to keep you guys waiting too long here. Extract wireframe, I think, was the command of choice last time we met. Extract wireframe. All right, now those isoparms, those isoparametric curves are now curves I can use. I'll go ahead and just delete this surface. I don't need it anymore. Go away, surface. There we go. And let's see. Just going to toggle back and forth. It seems like I cannot. There we go. Just get rid of those verticals. I don't need those. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to get rid of these. I don't know what those are. And I'll just make this really simple for now. I'm just going to copy these over a bit. And I'll just move these up a bit. Maybe. Here we go. I'll just use the gumball. Where are they? Here we are. Yeah, it looks close. All right. Great. So now all I'm doing is I'm going here and I'm, this is our pretty standard space frame 3-dimensional truss. Set one curve. I'll select over here. Why do I have double? Oh, that's weird. You know what happens when you have double things and you don't want doubles? There's a command for that. It's called cell for select, dupe for duplicate, cell dup. S-E-L-D-U-P. You cell duplicate and you can hit delete. Now I don't have any duplicates anymore. That's really annoying, isn't it, when you have like redundant geometry? Because you like hit copy twice or something. It's just like, no, I wish I could take that back again. Right? Cell dupe. All right. If nothing else, that was a really helpful thing to learn today. All right, let's see. Set one curve here as well. Why not? You can see they're already getting, oh, they're already getting piped as well. Yeah. I love it when a plan comes together. All right, set one curve. We'll choose that one over there as well. Yeah. By golly, this might just work. All right, so I'll zoom out and I'll do the same thing over here. Right, a little bit of redundant work here. And honestly, you know, the only thing stopping us from sort of selecting all the curves at once and trying to sort of sort through them in a big long list, so we haven't really talked about, you know, sorting through lists and really what we would have then, what we would end up with once we start dividing a list of curves is we get a list of points in each side of each of those curve items. And so we'd get a list of lists. And so we'd have lists embedded within lists embedded within lists. That's called a data tree. We'll talk about that actually in project 2 when we talk about surfaces. Because surfaces inherently, topologically, are two-dimensional surfaces. In other words, they have two different directions, latitude and longitude, not just a street address like a curve or a line. So you'll more about that later. But just sort of filling in the time here while I set these curves. Trying to anyway. Let's see. Set one curve. I keep forgetting what I'm doing. It's not helpful when it happens. I'll just pan down and do the next set. One curve. One curve. And one curve. Two more times it looks like. All right. We'll be done soon. Have you noticed that each of these components are completely different? Like they're all unique. And really that's a hard, laborious time and money cost nightmare if you're trying to do that with our traditional tools like paper and pencils, right? But somehow, when we're talking about digital information, it's actually much easier to control and coordinate and manage. And when you can take something like this, a complex piece of geometry, and feed it to, let's say, a CNC roller that can actually roll things in 3 dimensions based off of the actual design, digital design information. And then all the struts can be manufactured with a computer, basically a automated fed, computerized, what do you call it? Chop saw, right? They don't call them chop saws in the factory, but then it actually becomes, you know, almost as feasible to do a completely custom system like this without spending too much more money than just a sort of plain Jane one. Okay, so here we go. Finally, you're like, Josh, where are you getting here? All right, finally there. And so remember, these things flow from left to right. So we have some ingredients that we're plugging in, like those curves that I just did. We have some parameters, some sliders, right, that we can begin to adjust. Finally, back over here, the information flows from left to right. On the right-hand side, we take all of that geometry that we created and we start to pipe it 3-dimensionally, right? And so those are the 2 things that I need to bake each time. So I'm going to do that. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trusses. You've already probably baked these into your file at some point. I'm going to rebake these. I'm going to make 5 unique layers for each one. And I'm just going to, let's see, select this stuff. No, I'm not going to select it. Yeah, I might select it just to make sure I have the right stuff copied. See, I can see it in green. I'll right click and I'll say bake. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to bake this on layer 1. I'll bake this one on layer 1. All right, that's helpful. Right, so now I've baked this first, this top truss onto layer 1 back into Rhino. So I have a static version of it in Rhino. Okay. And I'll do the same going down through this. So I'm going to go to these. I'll bake these on layer 2. This is just going to make it a lot easier for me to select each one individually and pull them apart in Z using the move command in Rhino in order to create a sort of exploded diagram. Go ahead and select these, make sure I have the right one selected. Right click, bake this on layer 3. Bake. Some people bake cookies. And we're baking architectural componentry because, you know, it's Monday. We'll bake this on layer 4. That's what we do on Mondays. All right. Last but not least, I'll bake this on layer 5, as well as these. Here we are. All right, great. And with that, I can just close Grasshopper. Yay. All right, so again, there's several things here, right, that I wanted to sort of get to. I'm going to reopen Grasshopper, but hopefully you guys can see this. And now what I can do is I can select all the objects on just layer 1, and quite literally, I just go to my side view or front view, whichever. They're both the same, really. Okay, and I'll move this in space a certain amount. Turn that layer off. And then I'll do the same thing here with layers 1 and 2. I'll go ahead and select all the objects on those 2 layers and move those a certain amount. Right, and that way I can, that's an easy way to sort of make an exploded drawing, right? I can sort of pull those apart. I can even draw a line and snap from here to here, or curve, right? And then later on I can, you know, I could, you know, make sure that's part of the make 2D and then turn that into a dashed line to sort of show the dashed arrows, like showing how it, like a transformer explodes and then goes back together, right? So I'll go ahead and just finish this real quick because, you know, it'll bug me until I finish it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. And that seemed a little too far apart to me. Let's give it, it's too much breathing room. Here we are. Just move these back a little bit. Balance between positive and negative space. It's what we do. It's what we should be doing well. All right, so just move these up a bit. Yeah, a little bit more. Try to get an even spacing. I'm eyeballing it, but of course, it's easy enough to just sort of move things with a set increment here. Sect objects, one last time. Here we are. Almost done with this one. All right. There we are. Great. So that's ready. I'm going to go ahead and turn those off. All right, so that's another set there, ready to be baked or exported or make 2D or rendered or however you want to do it. Let's see. Grasshopper. There we are. All right. Now back to here. You know, another way of thinking about this is I could, as a diagram, just show struts and nodes, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen like space frames close up, but there's several different ways you can do it. I'm just going to select these pipe widgets, and I'm going to turn them off and say disable selected. That'll leave me with just the strut lines that we've created, all the connected dots, as well as all of these points that we are connecting up, right? And those will be the nodes. Yay. Now, there's one thing that's kind of a little funny here. Kind of a little funny. I don't know how for some reason I've forgotten how to talk today, but whatever, I'll get better at it. Right, here's all our points there for that truss. Great. Those are all the points. Those are all the nodes. When I make those into Grasshopper, they'll just be like little squares or little circles. And I want to actually give them some sort of like surface. So I'm actually going to populate each of these points with a little tiny sphere. So that way I actually get like a round make 2D point where I want it, okay, to sort of talk about nodes. Let's say my diagram. So this will be interesting. And again, I'm recording this, so if it helps, just watch. You don't have to try to follow along or anything, but watch to make sure you understand what's going on. You can always rewatch the video when you're like, oh crap, how did we get the sphere? The sphere command, suffice to say, is you're making a surface, right? It just happens to be a spherical surface. And a sphere is like a platonic solid, it's a primitive. And there's a sphere right here. But again, we all know how to spell sphere, I hope. You can just double click on the canvas anywhere and bring up the search. And not a big surprise here, it needs a base plane or basically center point, and then a radius. All right, so it's time to make some spheres. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems a bit overboard as far as the size. I mean, come on, that's too large. Right? So I'm just going to try to dial this down until I get something that looks about right. I'll go with 0.1. Magnitude of 10. Let's decrease that size. Maybe that's too small. No, that looks about right to me, actually. I like that. Why not? And I'm going to plug in all the points to this. So I'm just going to slide this down and hold down the shift key and just keep plugging in points. We'll just make spheres to our heart's content here. More spheres than we can shake a stick at. And really, once I get these done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new set of layers. You know, one layer will be sort of struts, and the other layer will be for these nodes, these spherical nodes, right? Sort of talking about how this thing works. Taking a while. Apparently, the more spheres you make, the heavier the file gets, which I guess intuitively makes sense. The more stuff you have in the file, the more it has to compute, right? Although I didn't expect it to bog down this much. Interesting. Holding down shift, so I can plug in multiple inputs. If I don't hold down shift and I plug this one in, it disconnects everything else, right? Thinks I'm just replacing rather than adding to. So I gotta hold down that shift key on my keyboard. So I can, you know, again, sort of just keep adding to the list of points that are gonna be populated with spheres. There we are. I think we're almost done. I hope so. This is just making me tired and bored watching it. I'm even bored talking about it. Oh, that should be it. Okay, great. Yay. All right. All right, so I'll make a new layer over here in Rhino. I'll call this nodes, actually not spheres. Nodes. All right, and yeah. Yeah, they're all there. Yay. It's like Tinker Toys, or like a chemistry model, right? Let's see, bake into nodes, right? Oh, there we are. Now that I'm done with that, I'm just going to delete it because it's just making the file really heavy. Yeah, that works. Now these struts, I need all these curves, right? We know that they're all here in this column, right? All of these line widgets. Just going to select them all at once. See if I can bake them all in at the same time here. Too many things to right click and, all right, so I'm gonna make a new layer. Oh, and it made it up there for some silly reason. I'm gonna move it down. Come on, Rhino, you should know better than that. All the struts, right? Yeah, the sort of linear structural members of the truss, as opposed to the connector parts of the truss, struts. Make that the active layer by check marking it. Now with all of these selected, I'm going to say solution, bake selected. It'll bake them into the actual active layer at the moment. Let's see what we have here now. Now we're missing the lateral struts, right? The horizontal members. So we need to bake those in as well. Those are actually right here. Oh yeah, look at that. So these are the original curves. And I'll move the struts up by them. I'll move the nodes up by them. I'll just change the order of the layers. I'll put the curves and struts and nodes up top, and then on all the sort of baked stuff down here. That'll go in layers 1 through 5. Yeah, all right. So that'll make a nice Make 2D, hopefully. Yeah, that's kind of nice looking, isn't it? Yeah, not too shabby for a couple of minutes. I mean, again, it beats the crap out of trying to build this with like toothpicks and Play-Doh, right? Whatever. Anywho, what else? That'll probably work for now. Oh, I know. Sorry, one more thing. Right? You know, while I'm here, and I'm going to go ahead and open up these These, there we go. Yeah. Turn these on. I'm gonna turn these off for a moment. I'm gonna look at this. And I'm going to, oh, sorry. No, I'm gonna go back to the struts. Sorry, I'm just out of it today. There are the struts and the curves. What I was going to do is pull one of these units out and sort of blow it up and make it bigger as a sort of blow up as well, right? So, you know, it seems like that might help someone understand exactly what they're looking at, hopefully anyway. Sometimes the way I look at it, I need all the help I can get. Yeah. All right, so there's an X. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what I'm looking at. And there's also an X. So what I'm doing is I'm just drawing, trying to select one bay of this. And I'm going to make a copy of it. Oh, actually, I'll copy the curve points too. Why not? Yeah, the nodes. I can highlight those. Oh, except I'm copying the points. I need to turn on the nodes, get the spheres. All right, surface. There we go. So I'll copy these as well. Why not? Hopefully, it's more apparent what I'm doing here in just a minute, or why I'm doing it, I suppose. Surface. All right. And I'm just going to make a copy of this up here somewhere. And what did it do? Oh, I see. I didn't select half of it. Ugh, what a mess. Okay. I'll try to act a little smarter this time and select this and this. Oh, I see. I just was kind of dumb. Yeah. Human error. It happens. Sometimes for some of us, more often than not. All right. Okay, maybe I've actually selected everything I need to now. There we go. That looks a little better. The reason I say that is because now I can just sort of trim these out a bit. Trim. I'll use this. Oh, sorry, I had something selected. Let me hit the escape. Trim. There we are. Use these as cutting instruments. And I'll trim these away. Yeah. Almost there. There we are. So now I just have one bay of this, right? And then so I can pull that out and blow that up a little bigger. Scale it. That gumball scale, does that actually work? It's like this. Oh, except I did it in one direction. No. Okay. I'll just use the regular scale tool. There, that's significantly larger. All right. That way I can always later on take a look at this. And let's go back to perspective view here. It's quite an interesting module. All right. Just move this over, move it up a bit. Having a hard time understanding where it is in space and relationship. Okay, here we go. Now I see. All right, got it. Okay, you guys still with me? I know I'm just doing a lot of stuff, right? But I'm generating, baking out certain information in certain formats and on specific layers, thinking a few steps ahead, right? So again, I'm thinking back to different drawings and diagrams I'd like to make on this space here in Illustrator, okay? All right, so I'm going to try to find maybe an isometric view. And of course, I'm going to pick it'll be the last one I find is the one I'm actually looking for. It always works that way. That's not it. That just looks stupid, actually. Eek. Yikes. Ew. I'm not happy with any of those. Maybe I'll tilt my screen a little bit here. All right, that might work. Yeah, why not? So I can make 2D this. It's not a 30-30, but it's still an ISO. You know, I might just keep it as perspective. Isometric looks really kind of blech. I have a feeling it has everything to do with it not really being ortho to one of the axes. But I'm going to go to viewport properties and perspective. Over here for lens length, I'm going to go ahead and change that. 50 millimeters, just stupid looking. So I'll go ahead and, I mean, just to be blunt. So I'll go ahead and use like 25 millimeter or something like that. I'll go ahead and frame this. The problem with perspectives, this is so much closer. Oh, it's also bigger. Oh, I see, because I scaled it. So I scaled that's cute. I scaled the spheres along with it. That's great. Yeah, it's always something interesting. I don't want to actually scale the size of them. Well, I'll just roll with it for now. It is what it is. I made my bed. I'll lay in it. You know what? I'm not. I'll quickly delete these and add a couple new ones in Rhino. It'll be easy. This is such a throwaway demonstration file, but I still want it to like look nice. So I don't know. I don't like to do stuff that looks like crap. Let's see. There's the sphere. Good old sphere tool. All right, click. I have to do this one at a time now. But it was 0.1, right? Yeah, it was 0.1. 0.1. 0.1. 0.1. Not comma 1. 0.1. There we go. 0.1. And 0.1. Yeah, that's so much better. I'm going to sleep better tonight knowing that. All right, so I'll make 2D. Let's see. Maybe. Make 2D. Right, that's just a command in Rhino. Make 2D. It's going to come up. Tangent lines, tangent edges, hidden lines. You know, honestly, there's just a bunch of curves here, so scene silhouette is unnecessary, superfluous, if you will. Tangent, I just wanted to say that word today. Tangent edges, hidden lines, not worth it. I'll put tangent edges on just in case because we have some circles, some spheres in here. I'll hit OK. Now what it's going to do is it's going to draw this flat on the XY plane. So after I'm done here in perspective view, it's done making 2D, and it's 98, 99% of the way, so it should be done momentarily. Here shortly, I'll go to top view and look at the actual drawing that it created in the XY positive X, positive Y quadrant. There it is. Okay. So there's that. So there's a drawing, kind of a diagram-ish thing. I'm not sure why I tried it. Oh, because I've been using the Mac all morning. I'll just zoom in. You can see, yeah, okay, that looks good. Can work with that. One thing I'm going to do is draw a quick set of lines here to sort of show that this is essentially this. That doesn't actually line up there. Come on, Josh. Something I can just lightly, I can turn to light gray and then line up later on. I can make it dashed and stuff like that. But just sort of showing that, hey, I'm pulling this out. Here it is closer up. All right, back to my perspective view or axon view, however you want to do it, ISO. I'm going to leave this here and try to use this vantage point as much as possible. As soon as you start switching the vantage point on people, they get really confused, and I don't blame them. It's kind of confusing. Struts, nodes, I think I'm done with those. I hope, anyway. And I'm going to go to my exploded set of layers here. Oh, yeah. That's good. All right, beautiful. All right, and make 2D. Select objects to draw. Try that. In this case, tangent edge is going to leave on. I'm not going to mess around with the hidden lines. That's just a waste of time. Scene silhouette, I will turn on. Let's see how scene silhouette turns out. And I'll hit OK, I think. Yes. All right. I always double check those settings before I really, super commit to them and wait 10 hours for this thing to generate, right? And this is actually going pretty quick. 84, 90, 95-ish. There we go. You slows down as it gets closer to the end. Interesting. That works. I suppose it's trying to reconcile the scene silhouette, maybe. Always the last thing you check is the thing that's taking forever. It's called Murphy's Law. All right. Yeah, it didn't take too bad. I mean, I've waited longer. All right. Move those up as well. Oh, it's gorgeous. Look at that. Sorry for the ad-libbing, but there's nothing quite like a good architecture drawing, isn't there? Yeah. All right. And I'm just going to, again, while it's really easy to sort of snap in particular places here and draw some straight lines, you guys notice it's easier to draw and trim and things like that in your CAD files, or your CAD programs like Rhino and AutoCAD, right? Illustrator, not so much, as I'm sure you've noticed. So try to take care of much of this housekeeping as I can here, while still in the CAD environment, where I can still draw and model with precision here. Yeah, whatever. Of course, this is hidden from view, but it's probably somewhere over here. I'll just draw it in. I can always ad-lib it in Illustrator later. It's not like I'm doing something super precise at the moment anyway. It doesn't look so bad. It doesn't look great in some places either. The pipe is kind of limited in what you're actually getting, isn't it? And you can resolve that with capping the ends with spheres. But at the end of the day, that just adds more poly surfaces, which makes your file even that much heavier. All right, so that works. I'm going to go ahead and bring these in. Now you'll notice again that I have like visible curves, scene silhouette curves, things like that. I'm going to go ahead and go to top view here. Export selected. I'll select everything, all these drawings I made that make 2D. For the file type, save as type, I'll select the native Illustrator file of .ai extension. And I got to find the right place here. Mac, home, desktop, yeah, sure, why not? I'll call this lattice diagrams test. All right. While that's happening, I'll go ahead and make sure Illustrator's still open. I have my template up. Go File, Open. I'm going to open up this Illustrator file I just made from Rhino. Desktop, lattice diagrams. You can't even spell lattice right? Really? Really? All right. It's one of those days where I need to proofread everything because I'm just not, fingers and my brain aren't synced here. Layers. Well, first of all, this is black line work. And I'm going to basically copy and paste this into a black background poster. So I'm going to have to change that and reconcile that in a bit. But what I'm going to talk about, again, if you export selected as Illustrator from Rhino directly into an Illustrator file, it preserves those layers, right? So, for instance, the strategy of, like, say, taking the visible curves, right, and turning those to a particular line weight, let's say, right? And then having that scene silhouette, right, be a slightly larger line weight, right? You could still, do something like that, and it would still work. By simply, otherwise it'd be really painful to sort of go through and try to select everything here, right? I mean, I don't know how you feel, but that's not something I even want to deal with, to be honest. So keeping them on the same layers that we used comes in really handy, in other words. Right? So if I go to layers, I'm just going to disable that setting that I just talked about with the paste remembers layers. I think by default, it's not going to do that. When I copy and then paste this into another document, right, it's going to paste it into all of it all together in one layer, right? It's not going to remember all those layers and keep them separate in separate layers, right? And that's real pain. If I wanted to actually go back in and fine tune, let's say, some line weights for, let's say, the scene silhouette curves versus the visible curves or whatever, right? Then suddenly that's become a lot harder because I don't have them separated out by layer anymore, right? So in order to remember those layers, right, we can go again, I just go to that layers box. And then over here on the right-hand side of that box, when you expand it out, there's settings. Then you can say paste remembers layers. It's this setting right here, paste remembers layers. And make sure that that's selected. Now I'll go ahead and copy and paste again. Copy and paste. And look at that. It kept those layers, right? Make 2D visible, scene silhouette, make 2D visible curves. And that way, you know, I can go back in and fine tune line weights if I need to. Because in here, I might actually start to resize things and reposition things, right? And so it might be really important to sort of fine tune and scale up or scale down the line weights accordingly, right? Because that usually happens by size. You know, and then again, I'll take these sort of small guide curves. I'll go ahead and tone those way down, 0.25. I'll make them dashed. I'll give them a dash gap spacing cadence of something a little more appropriate here. Maybe 3.3. See what that looks like. It's not bad. I've seen better. You guys can do better than that, I know. Here, I'll go ahead and, oh, you know, another thing about the, yeah, okay, that's selected. Well, that's good. Yeah, you always want that one selected as opposed to this one. Yeah, okay. I'm going to change that dash gap, though. I don't like it. I mean, again, I could just leave it since this is going to be, like, I'm not even going to save this probably, but come on. This is recorded. It's preserved for posterity. I'm going to go ahead and try to take care of it here. Yeah, it's a little better. 1, 1. Looks like little dots now. It's not so bad. Do the same thing over here. Did it not actually? Oh, okay, well, I'll have to manually do this part, I suppose. It's always annoying, but it is what it is. And maybe this isn't reading quite as dark as I want or as bright as I want, I guess, would be the right nomenclature here. You know, in which case, again, I could change its parameters. Maybe 0.25 is just too thin. Now, as soon as I change the weight, of course, the dash gap needs to change as well. I'm gonna try like a 4:2. A 2-to-1 ratio for dash versus gap is always a nice one. Oh yeah, that's not so bad. Now I'm gonna turn it down. It's not gonna be white, it's gonna be gray. Here we are. It's getting a little better. Maybe a little darker. Yeah, not so bad. That'll work, I guess. Okay. Now, why do you think I put these guides here? Because everything should line up with the grid. I don't want to see. Let me just pull up the example, right? It's just astounding to me how many times I see this. So don't do this. Like there's a perspective, and then the perspective will stagger up here, and then I'll go back down here. Maybe even overlap them. Don't do that. Line everything up with the grid. Make it look like this, you know, you that's what it's there for, right? It's to bring order, not disorder to something, right? So, you know, you can always sort of try to line things up with the guides, right? And so again, you know, trying to sort of understand how this might work. You know, this actual large one, I don't like it. I think it's stupid looking, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. You know, if I was thinking ahead, I probably would have put the nodes on a separate layer and maybe given them a bright color to make them a little splashier. To make them stand out, you know, for example, I'll make them give them a magenta fill or something like that. I mean, it's grotesque looking, but you know, it is what it is, right? No, maybe not. Or cyan or whatever floats your boat. Sorry, I don't know why I'm having a hard time selecting 5 things over and over again. I keep deselecting them, which is my problem. I'll go ahead and make their stroke also magenta. Right? Maybe I actually want the nodes to stand out from the struts. They sort of get lost here. And so I would maybe do that before I do the make 2D, you know, just to give them, you know, make them, oh, darn it, every time. Really? Okay, you know, add both a fill and stroke color to sort of make them pop a little more or something like that, right? But eventually it's about trying to compose these things on one poster, right? And so trying to make things align, things might actually scale, you know, to actually fit better. Yeah, it's fitting a little better there. Right, then have a, you know, something else in this grid, something else in this grid, right? I might put, well, I made a couple of renderings the other day, didn't I? Didn't I? Sounds like something I would do. Desktop. Did I do it in the last research? No, it was junky. There it is. Right? Yeah, junky. Ooh, pretty junky. All right, place, come on, here we are. Now, Julian will understand that the reason why this doesn't look as good as his is because I didn't have it on exceptional quality or whatever Rhino calls it, right? So it looks a little grainy, right? And of course, I would want to make sure these are on different layers, so I, you know, can maybe move that down to large perspectives. And of course, I can drag and move these up in order to sort of, you know, again, if you think about layers as layers of trace paper, which ones stack on top of which, the order, the sequence of them, and Z becomes really important, right? So you can begin to sort of, you know, lay things out accordingly, right? You know, this is so wide, I might actually try to make it fit here and then actually have something, depending on what it is, up top or below, you know, I'm not sure, maybe I would do that. Have a hard edge right here with a set of perspectives underneath that are tinier, right? Then have another set of drawings or something over here, okay? So, you know, over the weekend, you know, you guys were probably doing something more along the lines of, you know, looking at the system before I pulled it apart, right? And looking at it from the top and the side and the front, right? Those are another set of diagrams or drawings that you can put in here. Honestly, again, the rule's still the same. You guys might have had a lobotomy over the summer, but you've been over this in the studio before, right? The plan always aligns with the section underneath or the elevation, the front elevation or the side elevation to the side, right? There's a hinge here, right, in between these two. So here's top and here's front, right? Those are gonna align and be the same scale and project down from each other, just like you do always anyway, okay? In your studios and everything else. Okay. Here's what I'd recommend, you know, having a large sort of money shot perspective and a few smaller ones, depending on how these things work out. You know, having a set of diagrams and ortho drawings, right, that you can begin to compose and make some rules about then the line weights. Once you start to resize things, you have to adjust the line weights accordingly, right? And then you can begin to experiment with the line types and stuff like that if you need to. But these are all vector make 2D drawings exported from Rhino into Illustrator. Same with these. For some reason, it's taking a little while to redraw my screen, but right. Whereas these are like, you know, pixel based. These are the bottom, and then over here on the right is a, you know, rendered perspective, right? Okay. So again, the template's posted. It's in a zip zip file, zip folder. The link to which is for today in Canvas. I'll actually, after class, I'll be posting this video, the recorded course, and posting it right underneath this link like I typically do, right? I mean, there was last time we met, time before, right? So I'm pretty good about remembering to get those things going and posted as soon as possible. But look, what I'm interested in is both showing off what you can do design-wise. Don't spend too much time with the design, but just make something pretty nice, pretty cool looking. You know, make something that you're proud of, that you like. And a lot of you are already there, right? Because I've seen it. You guys have turned stuff in already, right, from over the weekend. And then it's about, you know, how do you continue to bake more information out? How do you make a really nice looking set of drawings? And then combine those with the the rendered perspectives in order to make a nice composition, nice graphic composition, a board, a poster of your design intent, right? So juggling several balls in the air, right? You know, we're going back and forth between design software and graphic software, and you know, some of it is in parametric design software or plugins, right? So, but this is the name of the game, right? So with that, any questions? Oh, I see there's been a chat box going on. It always hides the chat from me. 5 to 10 minute range. First time I tried to render it, I forgot to turn off the ground plane. Oh yeah, I made it very dark. Cell dupe is probably the most important Rhino command I will ever learn. Indeed. Caesar, indeed. What are we seeing with this scene silhouette? Oh, the scene silhouette, right? So typically, a typical strategy for deploying line weights in a drawing is, you know, all of the sort of silhouette edges, right? All the edges where, you know, around the edge of the object, where there's air behind it, space behind it, those typically get a little darker. So that scene silhouette actually draws the silhouettes, you know, of the scene itself. So you don't have to actually try to manually do that, okay? Yeah, oh, I see, thanks. Okay, yeah, it's a separate layer from the object contour edges. Yeah, sure is. You're gonna send us feedback on what we submitted. I can try. I mean, the idea is that I can do that for the next 15 minutes and during class, as well as tomorrow or the next time we meet on Wednesday. Next time we meet on Wednesday, I'm not going to be talking at you guys. Is that the no? So hold on. So I'm not going to be talking at you guys. It'll be work time, and you guys can bring in troubleshooting issues, problems, ask me questions, or just get feedback as well. Okay. There's a turn-in folder dated for this Wednesday. I don't know what, I'm not aware of any turn-in folder. No, there's always be a link, an assignment in Canvas. I just haven't created an assignment yet. But I don't think there's a turn-in. I'm not sure where you're seeing a turn-in folder. Sorry, Antonor. But to submit the final, there'll be a link. In fact, I'm still sharing my screen, right? Yeah. So 28th September, project 1 due. The following link, not live yet. I just haven't made the assignment in Canvas. Once I do, then I'll link to the assignment there. It's just, you know, I mean, I suppose I could do it now, but it's just, I mean, I have a list of things to do, and that's not the priority today. It'll be the priority on Wednesday to get that final submit link up. Yeah. You'll be submitting a PDF of your Illustrator poster. These are good questions. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Stop share. Here we are. And I'm going to stop recording.